It's time for Wrestling for the Culture, where we take a look inside to see what the wrestlers of color have been doing this week. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of Wrestling for the Culture. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters, and today I am blessed to have the Black Rasslin podcast on. As you know, you may have seen, they recently put out a list, the top 50 professional wrestlers that's black. So, you know, PWI has their magazine, and we see a lot of wrestlers get spited all the time. And all people do is talk. All people do is say, oh, why aren't there this many black wrestlers? These great brothers right here had the audacity and the courage to put together a list. And that's one thing I can appreciate because they wasn't just all talk. They was about that action. So what's up, fellas? How y'all doing today?
Brian H. Waters, how you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm good.
It's good, brother.
I'm good.
Welcome to your last show.
No.
This will not be the first pro wrestling show that we've had taken off the air, and we will absolutely call you Brian H. Waters throughout the entire show. Brian H. Waters.
We are the Randy K. Orton of Black Wrestling Podcast.
No, we're not.
Well, you know, as a person who listens to the show and I am subscribed, which people who do not know, right below on your screen, you can see where you can find their show and make sure you follow them. And of course, check out the shirt. You know, show them the shirt.
I will say too, blackwrestling.bigcartel.com. The merch is out. What Fam is rocking is not out, and some of the sizes are selling out. So if you're trying to cop something, I'm sorry. I'll stop with the puff right now. And I do want to point out too that for a podcast that is 3 people and 2 of them are from Baltimore, I would go on the podcast that has another Maryland guy on it talking about chew and you and you chew and all that. I would do that, right?
Oh man, sorry, fellas. You know, you guys put together a list. This is the second one, if I'm not mistaken. I remember when the first one came out. You know, shout out to my boy A Dazzle over at Black Wrestling Alliance. I remember he saying, "Hold on, we got to figure out. All right, how did they come up with this? Let's. I don't have a problem with it, but let's figure out the criteria." I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and explain. When did you decide to tackle this, and like, how did you decide on things? Because obviously, there's a lot of people saying stuff on social media, people figuring out why why Booker T's not on the list. And I'm like, those guys ain't wrestle.
Yeah. And I think that's, I don't remember when we first started, but I do want to say that we do the list year to year. We usually look at how the wrestler has performed in a number of aspects from May to May. Whether it's usually around, you know, that ending period of WrestleMania when that quote unquote season is over. And, you know, we're looking at everything. We're looking at, you know, number of matches. We're looking at quality of matches. You know, do they have a title? What federation have they had this title from? How long did they have? There's a lot of factors that go into, you know, I wish. I don't want to do it because you can't tell people how these things are, you know, made like down to the core. But, you know, to look at the spreadsheets and see, you know, how detailed a lot of that stuff gets, it's not just you know, throwing names into a hat or picking our favorite people. There's a lot of thought and a lot of arguing that goes into crafting these lists.
He's shaking his head. Go ahead.
Yeah, because he's the emotional one. He's the one who. Well, there's 2 things with Math. I'm not gonna bogart the whole interview, but it's 2 things with Math. 1, he's very emotional, and 2, Math is probably the most versed in independent wrestlers, especially for African Americans, you know, across, you know, the country, as well as, you know, in spots across the globe. There are black wrestlers in Britain and other places like that. So there's information that Math has about match quality and performance for a lot of people who aren't being seen weekly on TV that he's taking into consideration, and then we have to then weigh into, you know, the reality of what the list is going to be. It's a difficult process, but, you know, we make it. It comes out on time, and, you know, I think, you know, the reception is what it is. You know, a lot of people are are into it and at least talking about it. So it's been good.
One of the things, before the rest of y'all jump in, one of the things that I've always I've listened to people from PWI talk about their lists, and they talk about, and it always to me seemed as if they had a big committee that put these things together. And I think, you got three brothers right here. I like this. Do you ever see this expanding like the Hall of Fame vote? Like people can earn their way to being a contributor to the list, where maybe obviously it won't have as much weight, but maybe like some suggestions.
I mean, I don't want to go too deep into thoughts that we have about future projects, but those things are big. These things were considered before we started the list last year, and while it's not a full on undertaking like a 50 wrestler list, we do have, if you know who we rock with, there's some affiliate sites that we talk to and talk with about wrestling a lot, and we're there's some things that are in motion right now, but I would say keep it locked to Black Rasslin on Instagram to get some of that stuff. And of course Brian H. Waters will let you know what's going on ahead of time, so you can be fully aware before, so you can because I'm mad you got the voice of the people, right? You got the ear of the streets, ear to the streets.
I tried to,
okay.
But that is definitely, like I said, something I appreciate. It's the reason why I wanted you on the show.
I just Matt, do you remember what's up?
Don't lie to us, Brian H. Waters.
Wait, no,
I ain't
Matt,
gotta lie, Craig. I ain't gotta lie.
Wait, Matt, do you remember when we first got the idea to do the list last year, though?
Yo, we got the idea, I want to say February. I think it was February, and it was too far in the Black History Month for us to drop it then, because
that's right.
That would have went into it. We weren't going to make it, so we sat down and tried to figure out a day, a target date for us to release it, and Juneteenth. And we went around with the idea. Everybody was like, "This is a go." It gave us extra time to put this together, and then that's what we ran with.
Yeah, I think once we realized, in the conversation, when I forget who happened upon it, I don't know, it might have been you, I don't know if it was Fam, whoever happened upon the idea of dropping it Juneteenth. Once that idea came into play, it was it sparked everything. It sparked the idea to flip the Pro Wrestling Illustrated cover. It sparked, the amount of names. I think we had even, because it was going to be 100 at one point, but I think 100 lists would be a little realistically, it might be a little too much to take in, even with a couple of month lead time. And I do want to say, because I've forgotten about the fact that we had first did it in February, and that was my thing, because before people really latched onto the podcast, Black Rasslin was in a couple of different iterations before I linked up with Fam and Math to do to bring podcasts back. It was mostly an Instagram thing, and for the month of March, or from the month of February, I'm sorry, we would do I would post Black wrestlers every day with some information about them, especially like lesser known ones who held titles, think people that may have done things first in the realm of pro wrestling, but it's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, other pages are starting to do that, other Instagram accounts are starting to latch on to certain ideas, so how can we be different? And that's when I think the genesis of the idea of ranking the list, or doing a ranked list, really came into play.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and show the top 10, and as we discussed. But one of the things I want to ask is, how much backlash? Now I gotta go here. I was gonna
say something. I don't mean to cut you off, but I didn't mean to cut you off, Brian H. Waters.
At this point, that's his catchphrase.
We should probably start at number, what was that, 44.
Right.
If you want to talk about backlash, you gotta go way past the top 10. Okay.
I was going there. So
let's do it.
Who saw the comment first? That's what I want to know.
Brother Man.
Let's talk about it.
So the
worst possible person to see the comment first. By
yes, like I said, like I prefaced this earlier, Brother Math is emotional.
I'm gonna jump off the porch.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'm gonna jump off the porch and ask questions. I'm gonna talk to them later. So the interesting thing is, last year when we dropped the list, what was, I think the individual was ranked 36, if I'm not mistaken. So last year, first person to respond to it was that guy. He commented on it. He threw it up on his Insta story. Everything was all good.
True.
This year, the first person to respond to it is that guy. Throwing it up, liking it, throwing it up on his Insta story. Everything is gravy. So what happens is it's a conversation in the comment section. You know, that's what we're here for. A lot of time the person responding is me. Unless they catch wind of it, they'll respond under their own accounts. But
yeah,
when I caught wind of the conversation, I saw somebody saying this person might be too low. At this time, everybody isn't listed. So it's only a few names that are listed saying that said person should be higher than what he is. So what I respond with is, listen, they had a good year. Let's call it at that. And bang. Everything was good until the next day when they come in and say, take me off this list, blah, 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 blah.
Take me off this list. Thanks.
So when that happens,
enjoy.
I'm good, love.
Well, see, this all right. So let me tell you what I had the issue with when I saw that. You ain't coming to PWI like that. And
thank you. Brian H. Waters, thank you very much for saying that.
Brian H. Waters, this individual was ranked 144.
Yeah, and remember, this is a conversation we had before we even really got into it, because we've said that privately, and I feel vindicated, because there's times where you could see something and be like, am I crazy, or are people not seeing what's going on? But thank you. Thank you.
Granted, people,
I'm sorry, it was 126. I'm sorry,
126. Now I'm curious to know, by chance, in the law of averages, because I know y'all have the ladies and the men on there, would he have been 44 if they did a black list? You know what I mean? I know that's
like a just men.
If you go through their first 50 black wrestlers, would he even made it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know
it's a lot of different things you got to factor in, but my thing was like, you coming at these brothers like that, and it's like, dude, first of all, this is one of them things where we be our own worst enemy. All right, if y'all put out a top 50 black podcast, top 10 black podcasts, and y'all ain't put the Wrealm on there, I may be like, dang, that's how we feel. All right, work harder. That's all it is.
And there were independent wrestlers who made it and made certain points, and some who didn't make it, who had shared the same sentiments in the Instagram. And that's what's up. And who knows if that's even how they really feel, but the fact that, they gave that respect and to even leave a comment.
Shows you helping engagement numbers. I do social media analytics for work, so help our engagement numbers up at the end of the day.
Shouts out to Sonny Kiss. Sonny Kiss is good with that too. He's very active on his Instagram, even if it's just like likes to certain posts or certain comments or whatever. And the other part is, we took in, there was a conversation about with the whole TNA. We mentioned it on the podcast. I don't want to, harp too much on, our past content, but we had a whole conversation about this, previously. And, we talked all about how much we could really consider the TNA Heavyweight Championship into standing, and ranking against, keeping it real about what Moose is actually doing in the ring and how he does it.
Brian H. Waters, is it possible for you to mute that individual's name?
I'm sorry.
Brings him up.
Gerald Johnston used to play for the Cowboys.
Yeah,
I laughed when you said the individual, but I forgot to keep the joke going. I apologize.
You know when Ric Flair came on with the title and shit, put that
and they blurred it. Yeah, they blurred it.
Man, you making me work harder in post production. I got digitize.
Brian H. Waters, just having us on such a highly technical, podcast here is amazing. I would be honored if you would bleep his name every time I said it. I only said it twice. That would be if you took the extra 5 minutes to do that, I would be appreciative.
Let me write down that time code because I have an idea. It was about the 14-ish mark.
Okay, at Wrestling Realm, let's talk about it.
So one of the things, like I said, I looked at it. I was happy to see Trisha Dora on there, especially for the title that she's won. A little surprised, but I mean, so when you make a list, when you combat a list, the thing is you have to have a grit argument to remove somebody. It's like when they do top 10 quarterbacks. And I was like, would I like to see her crack the top 10, but I can't take out none of these names.
Yes.
I
don't speak too much on what I do day to day, but making lists is something that I've studied and worked on for going on 8 years now.
Okay.
I think it's one of those things where, because it's an interesting process if you take it seriously. If you try and mix, the idea of because the way we make the list is kind of how our three personalities are on the podcast. Again,
there's a science to it.
Math is very emotional, and he's very into certain things. So his list is gonna be weighted more towards some of the underdogs who are really putting in work. Fam looks a lot at the bigger picture, trying to see who is the biggest superstar, who are the superstars in the running. I'm
wrong.
Yeah, but I think having those counter arguments and not just doing it to be a troll, but to say, this is my viewpoint on pro wrestling, is necessary. And I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I like, giving credence to potential talent, but I also can't deny something like, if you're going to tell me there was a black wrestler that was better than Kofi in the last year, I don't know who they would be. You know what I'm saying?
So that black wrestler would tell you he was better than Kofi.
You can't. Right now he's. I feel weird saying it, but he's like Ric Flair-esque in terms of black wrestlers right now. Like he's kind of just like that. He's that zero before you when you're getting to ranking black wrestlers right now. Of course he's at the top, and then you go to the rest of them.
Yeah. The wild thing that we haven't talked about yet, we haven't talked about this on our platform at all, and I think that's an interesting thing to think about, is that I have a feeling that gentleman, barring something dramatic, might have one of the worst fall-offs on said list.
I think there was a conversation on another platform, in the Discord, they were talking about. I don't remember how the conversation come up, but there was a conversation about Kofi's fall off. I think it was comparing it to someone else. I apologize for not.
It wasn't Jinder Mahal.
No,
it might have been Ja Rule.
It was somebody fairly recent. I forget what the comparison was, but that was a recent topic of conversation. So there is a very real possibility, because the other side is I don't know what the WWE really sees in him.
Well, honestly though, it's a fall off, but I don't think it'll be. You look at the tag team titles, still have some weight to them. And they had him, and especially it's not one of the things where it's been the three of them, because X has been hurt.
X has been going.
I think that's
his place on the list.
It's like they satisfied us. I was talking to my good friend Thomas around Black History Month, and he said, "Do you realize that I think Scorpio Sky got the only pin in Black History Month for a black wrestler at the last day? Everybody get beat."
He had a was it on Dynamite?
Yeah, it was on Dynamite.
Did he pin another black man?
No, it was like it was a tag match. So
he was only black.
He's doing a lot of that right now.
If Scorpio Sky pinned a man on Dynamite, he was the only black man on that Dynamite. Hold up. I'm sorry. Talk amongst yourselves. I need to figure only because I was listening to
completely reckless.
Brian,
I was listening to a previous podcast of ours, specifically going into Scorpio Sky back around the time of the Tessa Blanchard stuff, and I've been trying to figure out what his fall off was.
that was his fall off.
One band, one sound. One band, one
Wait,
sound. Don't talk
no, actually, okay.
We will, but
February 5th, him and Frankie Kazarian beat Best Friends on Dynamite.
Okay.
But then he kept losing. He lost to Adam Page and Kenny Omega on the 12th.
There's no shame in either of those losses as how they're treating those other guys.
He lost to Evil Uno actually on February 29th. What is that? What's that day called? It's the leap year day. Does that have a specific name?
I don't know.
All right. On that's Ja Rule's birthday. Actually, you can look that up. That's an actual fact. Evil Uno and Stu Grayson beat Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky on Ja Rule's birthday in a dark match
on Ja Rule's birthday.
Revolution. That's a fact. That's a fact you're only gonna hear on Wrestling Realm or on the Black Wrestling Podcast. But I'm gonna refrain from speaking about Scorpio Sky in any type of terrible.
So a real quick question, because I'm gonna throw the thing on the screen, the cover on the screen.
Pause.
That's an amazing looking piece of art, though, huh?
Why is Kofi not on the cover?
You don't want to spoil it. You don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
If we had gotten a Kofi Kingston interview and I was gonna do like a magazine cover with Kofi on it, it would be nothing else but Kofi's face and maybe like BRP in the bottom right corner or something.
Well,
might not even be on there.
I understand, like what I'm saying, like why not have him in the collage part with the title? Because this is probably going to be the only time in a while where the number one guy on this list,
I feel you,
barring Bobby Lashley, ever crack. I don't know how y'all feel about that.
I think it's twofold here because one, like we said, we didn't really want to tip our hats, but also that image at this point in time will kind of invoke that first night of SmackDown.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
Yeah.
Bro, I want to go back a little bit. You were talking about Kofi's ranking next. I guess it was Kofi's ranking next year.
Yeah, by possible fall off.
Do you think? I don't see anybody having a better year than Keith Lee. With Kofi holding the titles until next year, would you put him over Keith Lee?
If Kofi hold tag titles?
Yeah.
No, not with considering.
It depends on what happens tonight, huh?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
is that tonight or is it next week?
Is that next week?
Because I know
it's next week. It's next week. It's the 8th. It's the 8th. But if Keith Lee wins that match, and because he would be unifying the NXT and North American titles, if he does that, I don't know how someone else can have a better year than him right now.
No, neither. And then even when you look at the work rate, the match quality, but I do see him eventually being NXT champion. But then there's, Adam Cole. Adam Cole is Adam Cole.
Adam Cole is Shawn Michaels, but I'm not going to get into it.
Adam Cole is ass.
What?
Outstanding.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to come here and not
Angle
be
Slam?
Adam
What?
Cole.
I'm sorry.
John H. Waters.
I'm listening.
Tell me, what's the difference between Adam Cole in 2020 and Shawn Michaels in 1996?
Good question.
A lot of people say that, and you might, a lot of people do say that. But think about this from, I don't know if you have children. I have a son who watches off and on. He don't know Shawn Michaels in 96.
Yeah, the kids don't know nothing.
Yeah, they got this saying that 7 years, you forget. And when you look at when they was doing those ring implosions with the Brock Lesnar's and Big Show and all that, it was 7 years apart because they want us to have wrestling amnesia. We know, we're intelligent wrestling fans, but a lot of people don't know. I understand where you're going with that, but I like Adam Cole though.
I will say I don't care. Adam Cole's fine. He's a good wrestler. I've seen that so many times. Okay. I don't really care to see it again.
This is the internet. This is the internet finally breaking both of these two gentlemen.
It's it's not, but I mean, that's
visceral reaction to just the mention of that man's name. They was ready to fight Adam Cole. Like, where we at?
But like, again, but
I'm not a fan of the majority of the people in AEW, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no difference between Cody Rhodes and Adam Cole.
Wow.
I disagree with that.
Adam Cole doesn't have that terrible neck tattoo.
You think that Cody Rhodes is better than Adam Cole?
No.
You don't?
No.
Why?
He's wild mid. He's Cody's wrestling ability can only be described as extra medium.
I'm gonna tell you like this.
I think Cody. The thing is with Cody is before he went to AEW, before his match with Dustin, you couldn't really name a good Cody match. You could name a good Adam Cole match. You couldn't name
because of his opponent.
Who? Adam Cole's opponents?
Yes.
You ain't tell me that you ain't think he had good matches in ROH and New Japan and
that's a different Adam Cole. This one is all vanilla.
Being men of a certain age, we've seen a lot of pro wrestling. We've seen a lot of iterations of pro wrestling.
That's true.
I have spent most of my adult life watching blonde-haired adult men super kick and jump around and be technical wrestlers and kip up and hold titles all the time. Adam Cole, it's I have nothing against him as a person. It's more just like what people loving him so much really represents. I'm tired. I'm done with seeing Adam Cole be the guy in the federation. I Brian H. Waters, I've tried not to curse and I've tried not to say certain things, but I want to be frank and I want to be real.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Keith Lee stomp the shit out of Adam Cole.
Me too.
And then I want to see him win. I want there to be a big shock when he gets the 3 count. I want to see whatever black guy with glasses on at the Performance Center doing the shock phase. Oh, I want to see all of that. I need Keith Lee to have
him to come out in them sweatpants and
I need Keith. Well, because this is the thing. I want Keith Lee to have a hard fought battle. If Keith Lee could be kind of beat up and Mia Yim comes down as Adrian to his Rocky. Mm-hmm. And they have like a moment because they've already had them in their house. They've already set that up. Right. We know that they have some type of relationship. So give me that and a win for Keith Lee, and I can't tell you who could take his spot.
Do y'all think Keith Lee? We know he can be the guy. Do you think the company will let him be the guy to take down the golden boy of NXT? That is Adam Cole.
Oh, you know what? I've heard his name a lot on those the Stone Cold podcast interview shoot things. That's a name that keeps coming up. Yeah. The recent one with Sammy Jacket.
Mark Henry.
Sammy Jacket is good enough for me. Sammy Jacket is good enough for me. But no. He mentioned him. Taker has mentioned him. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You've seen Stone Cold before has mentioned him. His cosign.
Wait.
Voice.
Wait, don't forget though. I'm sorry to cut you off, but don't forget his appearance in the Royal Rumble with Brock Lesnar, which is probably the most important. Because and I'm not gonna use the word I would use or the variation of the word that I believe someone of that man's status would say, but I think when Brock looked at Keith, he's like, God damn, I don't know what to do with this individual. Like, I didn't realize they made him this big. Like, I think that was the look in his eye. You know what I mean? Like, he still got over on him, but at the very least, they had that moment, which could set something up in the future if Keith does what I want him to do at the Great American Trash next week.
You still mad? It's not in Baltimore. Well, no, that was fam that was mad.
Yeah,
that was me.
I'm not as mad as you.
Stop that. That's disrespectful.
Well, so if predictions that Keith Lee will be number one next year. Early predictions.
I think
I tried to get it out of y'all.
There's a strong conversation, but it's dependent on a couple of things we just talked about.
It's strange because I'm not a fan of this individual. I'm gonna say this much, but if they
individual,
not that I know where he's going. I know where he's going.
No, individual. Never mind. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it.
The way that they were going prior to, I think it was last week, I was gonna say Bobby Lashley could possibly move up.
Yeah. I mean, at the moment, they're building him to be a monster, so there's no telling when he's going to be able to come out on top in a championship match.
Anybody I see doing a full Nelson is not a monster.
But did you? But no, I feel you. But did you see how they sold that though? Did you see how they sold it? There was mad people in there trying to get that hold off of him, and he was just relentless with it.
Another in the individual.
Well,
individual.
I don't know if you name your podcast Brian H. Waters, but "and the individual" would be a very interesting title for this episode. Yeah, I also think it was interesting that there were on Raw a lot of the times when there was like black people on the screen, they were only interacting with black people. Like the one segment, it was Ricochet, Cedric Alexander, R-Truth, and Apollo Crews. It's Cedric.
We used to have it when I was at ESPN. We used to have a thing called black screening because in the screening area where we produced the highlights, a lot of us would be in the back row, and they would say that's black screening.
it's just all the black folk at the water cooler.
Yeah, that's what everybody set their computers up, produced their highlights together.
I respect it.
But now, all right? So before we get out of here, we talked. How you guys feel about MVP? Can he? I know you said Matt, you're not a fan of Lashley, but is he what it will take to get Lashley over the hump?
Yes.
It's definitely better now than it was when it was Lashley and Lana. I'll say that.
Oh, absolutely.
I enjoy the storyline a lot more. And MVP is good at the backstage theatrics that I guess Bruce Pritchard is putting into Raw. Like it feels very much like I'm watching the video game that you play when you're going through the different interactions or whatever. And I think, because MVP is old school, he was doing it, back when my son was, in diapers, you know what I mean? And he was Intercontinental Champion. So I think he's been a really good asset, especially during the quarantine. And I think if he keeps wrestling, because he was low, right? He was like maybe like the low 40s on the list.
47.
So.
And he was
48.
He was a late addition. I mean, when you figure he only came back, I guess it was around the Rumble. He wasn't in the WWE before the Rumble.
He came back at the Rumble.
Yeah, so he's made a really strong impact. I think if he had more matches, but
he wrestled independent last year.
Yeah, because he was doing a lot of stuff in Japan as well. But I think there was also the question of if he's going to retire, which I think it seems like he's been back and forth about it. I thought he was going to retire, but now he's kind of in this like player coach role with Bobby Lashley right now, which is interesting.
Yeah. All right, and before we go, I gotta ask y'all. I know you said I'll see if you kayfabe me or not. Will we see perhaps the top 50 list become a full-fledged magazine or a digital magazine?
Wow, Brian H. Waters, you got some capital that you sitting on. You got some investors who can.
Brian H. Waters.
I think with it's going to sound cliche, but with $1 in a dream, I think we can make it. We can make a lot of things happen. But I think operating a weekly podcast with like kind of a decent little merch shop with an IG and like not being like super different, but trying to do things differently than everybody else does, on top of day jobs that have nothing to do with this, and whole families. I think it's hard to then be like, yo, let's do 65 pages of a magazine. I don't have. I know I'm going to need to get advertisers. I don't know how I'm going to pay somebody to get those for me, or someone for writing words and photos, and so.
I mean, there's a lot of who knows? There's a lot of black wrestling podcasts out here, so maybe
Brian H. Waters said we need to start the Patreon right now. I think
maybe it's a setup for some collaborations or something.
Hey, I mean, and look, again, without speaking on things that are in gestation stage, Black Rasslin on Instagram is probably a good place to keep it locked. If you're not following already, keep it there, because any type of announcements, like, because we haven't even touched. I don't want to extend it too much, but we've not even touched on after the BRP 50 was dropped this week with Black Wrestling Alliance. Where we spotlighted some people that were kind of outside of the 50 that we felt needed to get some shine as well. There's always things happening that you're probably going to hear about first on the Instagram, and then hear embellished upon on our podcast, as well as platforms like Wrestling Wrealm with Brian H. Waters.
All right, and y'all, each individual, if y'all want, let the people know where they can find you.
Baltimore Black Box.
I don't know what that means. I'm from Jersey.
Where
are you from?
Blocks.
Math, you got to give him your social media handles right now. You know how we do this.
Mav at Mav Damon. That's it. You ain't had to give me the CNN face.
He was like this scene. Hey, Steve. Yeah,
bring it, Brian. Stop
it. That's funny.
All right.
Yo, IlFam79 on your social media choice, aka the editor of the podcast, and more importantly, at Where's Buffy every single weekend as well. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to a list like this, shout out to Matt for putting in all the work, because he put in a great deal. The lion's share of the work on the list and with the research. And I'm just here to piss him off. But shout out to Cuz for this list, and you know what I'm saying, shout out to Brian H. Waters for covering the list, man. And you know what I mean, you got to respect the 50, but you can't play the 50.
I will say without math, we probably wouldn't even start thinking about what the list would be realistic. It would be like a BRP 75 that we would whittle down to like a 54 at some point. But I'm at Cal on Twitter, as always, at Black Rasslin on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. BlackWrestling.com is the website. We drop every Friday at some point. Sometimes it's early, sometimes it's late. It depends on really how crazy the recording was the night before. But we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts, we should be there. Again, SoundCloud, shit, that's it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out Black Wrestling Podcast, support them, check out the list, comment. Don't just talk about it. Drop the comments. So, you help build the engagement up. Make sure you're subscribed to the Wrestling Realm. Make sure you're following us on Twitter and Instagram. Anywhere you get your podcast from, you can find us. Hit the subscribe button down low. Until the next time, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week's episode of Wrestling for the Culture.
For more episodes or more content from the Wrestling Wrealm Network, hit the subscribe button down low. Make sure you turn on the bell for notifications. Till the next time, too sweet.